Thank you for listening to Nursery. This podcast comes to you from the avenues of Third Class and Bullskit Productions. The podcast is often scored with the music of Third Class and associated acts. So if you like what you hear, go to thirdclass.net. Watch various documentaries which follow us through studios, interviews, and tours. Pick up a copy of our vinyl album, Hymns from Some Small Town, for $15 plus shipping while supplies last, or a digital copy of any of our albums for very reasonable prices. Find us on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, SoundCloud, and Spotify, and enjoy the music of Youngstown's sloppy pop act, Third Class, going strong since 1999. If the sense of humor on Bullskit is akin to your own, you might enjoy the inappropriate online comedy of Bullskit Productions, off-the-wall, quirky comedy from Ohio. Go to bullskit.com and enjoy the plethora of ridiculousness we have to offer. This episode is sponsored by the Speaking of Music Show, an audio editorial program that dives deep behind the curtain of music culture of yesterday and today. This episode is also sponsored by the Orange Avocado, raw, vegan, gluten-free desserts. If you would like to sponsor a few episodes of Nursery, email me at cloegrave@gmail.com. That's CHLOEGRAVE@gmail.com. It's cheap, easy, and you can sponsor as many or as few episodes as you like. If you are a fan and love listening to us and simply want to support, just click the donate button on thirdclass.net or bullskit.com. It all goes down the same tube. Nursery is not appropriate for listeners who are under the age of 18. Please listen responsibly and enjoy helping us build an arts scene in the great state of Ohio.
It's cold in this neck of Ohio tonight, and the style is right for a sad winter song. I feel lost like a speck in a pile out of sight, and though I try with all might, I just don't feel that strong. As we walk through a field trekking on snowy dirt, my eyes start to hurt trying to see a smile, and we talk about fears making.
Hey guys, I just wanted to tell you my band Third Class is playing a few upcoming dates. The full band is playing July 25th with Sexy Pig Divas, Deprater Kearns, and the Village Bicycle at Cedars, 706 Steel Street, Youngstown, Ohio. Doors open at 9 p.m. Don't miss that. Then we have some Third Class solo shows. August 1st will be for the Fine Arts Council of Trumbull in Warren, Ohio. Then we have August 22nd. It'll be Susie's Dogs in Youngstown, Ohio. And then there'll be a September 11th, Christopher's Downtown, Youngstown, Ohio. And then we'll get into September 25th, the Root Cafe, Lakewood, Ohio. October 2nd, the Soap Gallery, Youngstown, Ohio. October 3rd, Nervous Dog Coffee, Akron, Ohio. And then from there, October 23rd through October 30th is the Hymns from Some Small Tour, a solo tour in promotion of our new vinyl, Hymns from Some Small Town. And that goes through Ohio, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Indiana. So keep your eye on thirdclass.net for all those upcoming, and let's get on with the show. Thanks, guys.
Waiting on Pete?
I was waiting on Eric Allman.
Eric Allman?
Yeah. He'd probably come to this door, if any door, right?
Yeah.
Most likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, how you been?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Hey, I'm recording already. Is that too loud for you? Can you handle that? Cool, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I know you're busy dude.
Yeah.
Well, hey, guys, welcome to Nursery, a podcast from Ohio's Creative Voice. What I'm doing right now is entering the Ward Bakery building, walking with my friend Eric Allman. Tell him what you do.
For the last, I'd say since November, I've been primarily painting large-scale canvas pieces. Well, kind of painting using elements of like printmaking and collage, kind of the things that I've always liked, and literary elements as well. And kind of bringing them all together into big canvas paintings.
Great. And you've been doing this, in my understanding, mostly to the backdrop of Ohio. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I started. I never really did. Oh, I got some music.
I always get nervous if it's too quiet. So
Oh, no sweat, no sweat.
really low?
That's great, that's great.
So, what do you want to do?
I can sit right here if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can I get you a bottle of water?
Oh, no sweat. No thanks, man. Thank you, though.
Beer and coffee.
No, I'm good.
I share this with my cousin, Gabe, who's a photographer, so I cover everything so I don't get paint on it, and I push everything to the sides, then we switch out, and he has to do photography. I push all my stuff to the sides and switch it back.
For our listeners, what is this place? Can you give them a nice, nutshell version of where we are, other than Ward Bakery Building in Youngstown, Ohio?
Yeah, I moved back to Youngstown about 3 years ago, and I had a studio in Lakewood before we moved back here. Little studio with it was interesting because I'm on top, but
No, it's good.
yeah, it was so.
Off topic is the only thing we do here. This is, I don't know if you've listened, but
I have,
this is the
actually, yeah.
only thing I do.
I had a little studio in Lakewood that I shared with a lot of really great musicians. Mostly it was other bands, so I would have to go through like 2 practice spaces, and then I had this little thing in the back, and it was really nice. It was nice mostly just for a place that you could go to kind of, do stuff. And at that time, I had just recently transitioned from primarily like writing poetry and plays and stuff like that to doing visual artwork. So when I moved here, when we moved back home to Youngstown, I was looking for a studio. So I actually shared a studio with Jim Pernado when I first moved here, which was crazy because I didn't realize what I had at that. You know what I mean? Like the idea that you move back to Youngstown, you move into you share a studio with an artist like Jim Pernado. It was a little overwhelming.
And then for listeners who don't know, who is he to the Youngstown area?
He's one of the best artists that I've seen. He still lives right down there in Youngstown, Ohio, in downtown, in this fantastic studio, and it was just amazing. He would open up areas, and there'd just be pieces that were amazing. I mean, and they'd have dates from 77 or 79, and he was the first person that turned me on to the idea of archiving work, keeping track of what you're doing, even if just for yourself, because I think we all go through those periods where it's like, everything I do is garbage and just throw it away, and it's, this isn't worth recording, but maybe I started a little late, but it's all valuable. So then it was just more of a financial kind of thing. I'm not a Rockefeller. It was
Sure.
And then my cousin Gabe was like, hey, I have this, and he's been here for, probably 15 years.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, he's been in here for a long time. It's really funny because there's kind of new blood and old blood here, There are the people who've been here forever. And then, when I first moved in here, basically the Ward Bakery is that white building right across the street from the U-Haul building on Mahoning Avenue, right after the bridge. Mm-hmm. And it has a mail sorting business that runs out of the front. Jerry Treharn, who owns the building, makes really, really great furniture out of the first 2 bottom floors, and then the remaining floors are rented out as artist studio and artist space.
And that's near and dear to me because since the beginning of our first time in Third Class recording an album, we've done almost exclusively recording tracks with Pete Revere at Amprion, which is also in this building.
Oh yeah, it's right above. I hear him recording all the time. So there's a recording studio. And there are fantastic artists who are here. And it was funny because when I moved in here, it was about 3 years ago, probably right around there, and I was the only person on this. Not the only person, like Tony Armini is the sculptor is on this first floor as well, but he kind of has access through the garage door in the front. And he's a professional. He's more of a daytime kind of guy. So my girls would go to sleep, and my wife, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna run to the studio for a little bit, and I'd walk in. I'd never see anybody. Like the first year or two that I was here, I'd occasionally see like one person or something like that. It was very solitary, and at first it made me kind of nervous. This is a big building, so if it's like 2:00 in the morning, then you get those kind of alone in this big building. But that passed very quickly, and it just became a really, really comfortable place, a really fantastic place. And it's interesting because now the downstairs this first floor is kind of picking up again. And it's weird. I had to go through kind of a transitional period of getting comfortable with, because this studio for me is, I don't want to sound like precious, but this studio is, it's, I mean, it's, I'm not, as you can tell when you look at this, I'm not paying this stuff for anybody. Like, it's not, this is a very important part of my health, of my overall physical and mental health. Just to paint. Exactly, because, you know what? I'm just going to talk.
You're good, yeah. That's what I want. That's what I want. It's near, I imagine that anything for listeners who might be familiar with Youngstown area, or if you're just some random person on the internet, just to give you a little reset, we're talking with Eric Allman, and what he does is, in Youngstown, he does some really cool modern art, a lot of paint, a lot of really cool things like that. A place called the Lemon Grove that used to exist had some of your work hanging in it, and that's where people may have been introduced. Sure. And Lakewood, Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, and we are in a loft right now that has some really nice pieces of art. So, like you said, you do it for yourself a lot of the time. So, is it just a nice big bonus when it is for other people, when somebody else gets something out of it? Does it make you happy?
That's kind of straight. Certain people, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I think, I've advanced more over the last 2 years or 3 years being here than I have in a decade before that. And I think that's because of access to people like Jim Pernado, or people like Michael Green, Jason Van Hoos, Paul Burgess, Chris Yambar. That's what I mean. It's like all these people who are coming in doing this. Paul Burgess, the artist, is down. Chris Yambar is across the hall. Like all these people, Terry Fetch. Like there's all these great artists in Youngstown, and they're very not just accessible, but they're involved. You know what I mean? Like you can actually approach them, not just approach them, but you can. And like in the case with Jim Pernod, you can become friends. You can develop a relationship where his opinion matters. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Michael Green. Not to say that the average person, if they say, "Oh, I really love this thing," but I can't be tied to that. I can't be tied to the idea that if somebody likes something, that means it's good, and if somebody doesn't, that means it's bad.
Yeah, person to person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can't take the good if I'm not willing to take the bad. I can't listen when somebody says, "Oh, that's really great," and then if somebody says, "Oh, that's really bad," say, "Oh, I'm not going to take that one." You know what I mean? It's like the people that I do admire and the people that I really appreciate their opinions, those carry a lot of weight. Absolutely.
And the people that you appreciate their opinions, it's not to say that they're all painters or all visual artists, but they are just into that. They're just like people that are at least aficionados into that world somewhere.
I would say so. Yeah. I'd say, turn this off. I would say, I think, early on, because I'm relatively new to visual art. For a lot of my life, I was writing poetry, writing plays, writing.
And how's that played in? Poetry specifically.
It's coming back in. I really there were certain aspects of poetry that I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed performing and reading poetry.
Oh, cool.
My friend Nick Trenkner in Cleveland had a poetry night at the Literary Cafe in Tremont for years. And it was once a month, and I would like write specifically for that thing. And that thing really honed me as a performer, and it helped me in my theatrical pursuits. It helped me in my in everything. But I mean, I would write like specifically with that in mind and with that performance in mind. But the problem that I ended up having with it was I found writing to be really difficult. It was very difficult.
So performing was better than the actual writing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like, there was a lot of performing. I would just go up and tell stories and free, and do a lot of improvisation and stuff like that. That was always my strong suit. But like sitting down and writing, God, it was ponderous.
That's hard. Yeah.
And I would see all these people around me, like my friends Carmen or Joseph Mackos or Nick, all these great Stephen Goldberg, all these great poets, and they'd be typing and they'd have all these things written out, and I'd just be like, and they, you'd hear all those anecdotes. Oh, if you want to be a good writer, you have to write every day like it's your job. You have to do it for it. I was thinking, there's no way. I just hated it so much.
Yeah.
So when I, and then I had my daughters. My oldest is 10, my youngest is 7 now. And then when I had them, I just found that I couldn't really write anymore. A lot of the subject matter for a lot of my written material was very dark. It was, I've suffered from, bipolar disorder and different, addictions, different stuff like that. And things had gotten rough. And that was a lot of the subject matter for a lot of my work. And it was very dark, and it was very heavy. And when I had kids, I didn't put myself in that place anymore. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't kind of operating that space anymore. So I found that, my writing changed, and I just didn't like it anymore. So I stopped. I mean, I pretty much completely stopped writing.
Well, that makes sense to have stopped when I had a professor at Kent State named Craig Pollinich, who now runs something to do pretty big with the Neo-MFA program at YSU, Kent, Cleveland, everywhere else. And he always said, he's like, I'm not, he didn't tell you to write gothically dark, but he was like, don't write the Hallmark stuff. He's like, go dark. He's like, at least for starters, go dark. It's easier to become original with. So it kind of makes sense that you didn't write your Hallmarky stuff with your daughter, if that was what spewed out of you at that point.
The way I felt about it was nobody wants to hear about anybody who's
how cuddly and
great. Exactly. Everything's going great.
It's not quite as interesting,
happy.
Oddly enough, it's not.
No,
Love songs are great and stuff, but it's like starting dark is a better jumping off for poetry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Or for plays, for anything.
For all things,
chaos, and conflict. Those things are the things that are exciting. And then, I completely stopped. I haven't written much in years.
Well, before we get to when you stopped poetry and started visual art, I love poetry. I love it. I that's all I did when I was in school. I graduated, major in English, minor in creative writing. I was published every single year since I graduated. I got nominated for a Pushcart Prize.
Wow.
And I was so into it.
Yeah.
So, and I want to know, because I'm not still, I've been so many years out that I'm pretty sloppy now. I don't really know academic things anymore.
Sure.
But I loved Anne Sexton, and I loved Kenneth Rexroth, Antler, Gary Snyder, William Carlos Williams, all that stuff. Do you name me just a few poets just that you just love, even if they don't sound like you, that got you into stuff like that?
Well, I came from a decidedly anti-academic background. We left, because I was born in Youngstown, and we lived here until I was 11, and then we moved out to California, and I was homeschooled while I was out there. Okay. So I never went to school for any of this. I guess self-taught is a good term for it.
And you end up going to college to learn about a bunch of people that didn't go anyways, so you probably took the right path.
I feel like I'm doing all right. I feel like,
half the people I named.
And when you're young, you're like, oh, screw academia. It's but now it's like, I don't care. Everybody gets to where they are through different paths, Yeah. But I feel like the way that I got to know a lot of authors and a lot of poets was through a bookstore. I got a job at a place in Lorraine. This was after we moved back from California, called Booksellers. or is it Elyria? Well, like that Elyria, Lorraine area. And it was the greatest job. It was the greatest bookstore because they kept trying to add things to make the bookstore last because even by this point, bookstores were failing. This was 20 years ago. Jeez, yeah. I'm 40. Can you believe it?
Young, man.
Yeah, and it was, well, I'm just thinking, like, wow, it doesn't seem like that long.
Yeah, yeah.
But I worked in this big bookstore, and it was in the back. They had added on a whole video rental side. They had added a postal, like, subsidiary branch. They had a Western, all these things to try to make this bookstore succeed. But it was just a huge, used bookstore. Amazing. So I got the job, and I had never really been, maybe I was even younger, like 19, 20, somewhere around there. And I was like, well, I guess I should read the classics. Like, that's the one that it looks like I should read. So I just started reading a lot of those. So I started off with a lot of the conventionals. Like, I really liked Shakespeare's sonnets. I thought Shakespeare's sonnets were really good. I thought that, you go to the ones that look like Byron, and you go to you go to these big, like, epic pieces, and then those dried up very quickly, and I couldn't relate to them. So you go through, like, the big ones, the ones that lasted, the ones that stuck around. A lot of the expatriates, Ezra Pound, was early. T.S. Eliot was really big. Like, it's funny in my life, in all art, there are people who were like really substantial. Then I read Huckleberry Finn.
Nice.
Tom Sawyer, and then I read Huckleberry Finn afterward. And on the back of it, Ernest Hemingway, they had a quote of Ernest Hemingway's that said, all American writing starts with Huckleberry Finn. Like, Huckleberry Finn is the beginning of all American writing.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I'm thinking to read this guy. So I started reading Hemingway, and then that opened up all the expatriate writers. And then Hemingway had probably the biggest influence on me. Like that.
He's good.
And that the projected image as opposed to the man. You know what I mean? Like, he was so conflicted. And at that time, I was very conflicted. I had a very, fractured family life and all these kind of things. And I was in a very kind of broken up place. And I really connected with him. Seriously. And so I went through them. And then, who was it? It was like on the back of one of Hemingway's books, there was a line from Jack Kerouac saying, like, the greatest American novel of all time was, The Sun Also Rises or something like that. And I was like, well, I'll read this guy. So I started reading the Beats, and that was when I would imagine like 80% of young men in their early 20s, that was like it. I was like, I'm moving to San Francisco. I didn't want it because I wasn't a big hippie guy.
Right.
We were very much into, like, I grew up, kind of listening to weird music, a lot of hip hop, a lot of jazz, stuff like that. And then at that time I was listening to a lot of electronic music. We were listening to a lot of industrial music, like Ministry, Pigface, Skinny Puppy, that kind of stuff. But then that was transitioning into early electronic music.
Yeah,
like,
you listen to like Chemical Brothers and things like that later, stuff
and
like that.
We got heavy into the rave culture.
Yeah.
Which this was when the Grateful Dead were still touring.
Right.
So the rave culture was very specific. It was like you would go to a show in Detroit, and then you would go to a show in Toronto 2 weeks later, and you see the same people who were at the show in Detroit in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was a very sharp, defined group at that time. But it was awesome because a new song would come out and it was just like unlike anything that you had ever heard before. You know what I mean? It was like all these, like Autekra, a lot of the early, like they call it EDM now, or electronic, which was just like electronic music at that time. It was like
electronica, right? That was thrown around a lot.
Yeah, well, we were all bristling when they tried to call electronic. We were like, that's a stupid name.
Yeah.
Exactly, like, it's just music. We were kids. What are you gonna do? But
why you try to categorize us?
Yeah, early Aphex Twin. Like, he would come out with a new album, and it would just be like,
my brother loves Aphex Twin. Yeah,
amazing, absolutely a modern master. Just absolutely amazing. So it was like we were kind of in that time of, like, so I'm reading the beats, and I'm listening to all these like new musics and what have you, and then that, that lasted for a while, I would say, and then that led into probably the biggest influence of me literarily, and I'd imagine, an entire generation, because he's the greatest, was Charles Bukowski. When I first read Charles Bukowski,
okay.
Totally changed, because that was the first time that I saw somebody who was, I think he was alive at the time. No, I think he had passed away.
No, I think you're right.
I think he was alive.
You're right. Yeah, you have to have been.
And here was a guy who was just, the beauty was in, I don't know how to explain. Like, what is art?
Yeah.
We're a little early in the podcast for this
well,
question,
I mean, there's no denying that he's good. He's just really, really good, and like in a weird way, where every single poem is like at least got something for you. It's not really like a lot of the older guys. Maybe it's just a cultural difference in years gone by, but right now, anyways, it's a very accessible and fun in each poem while still being deep, or whatever you want to say.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that I connected to the most with it was, here was a guy who was expressing he was expressing such a fundamental truth, such a truth, his own truth, and he was expressing it in such a confident, fearless way.
Yeah.
Where I was just completely full of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to hide every bad part of my life. I was trying to, suppress every chaotic tendency or every bad feeling. I was trying to control my life to such a degree. And here was a man who was just like, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, we are chaotic, disgusting creatures.
Yeah, he didn't walk around acting like he was right. He was like, I'm using you and you're using me, and he just admitted. It was never like, oh, he was righteous on some other.
He was just honest.
Yeah.
And honesty at that time really resonated with me. I wasn't able to be honest with myself. I wasn't able to be honest with, I was as honest as I possibly could have been.
Right.
To the people around me, to the people that I loved, but I was just, it was a strange time, and that kind of sparked me off in another direction. But another lucky thing that I always had was, I was lucky enough to find different people in my life who would expose me to things that I hadn't been exposed to. Like, I was always really lucky to hang out with people who were very smart, who were, people who had gone to college for art, or people who had gone to college for English or literature or whatever it was, and they would turn me on to these things, send me home with books, or, they'd explain this art movement, or they'd explain that art movement. Mm-hmm. So I was always being exposed to new people. And then Nick Trinkner, one of my closest friends, who's in Cleveland, that was when the performance kind of changed, because I tried to be in bands. I come from a very musical family.
Okay.
My grandfather taught. He was a doctor of music at YSU, and he taught at the Dana School of Music and played clarinet. My father's a jazz trumpet player. My uncle Brian Allman is he's a guy in he's been a guy in the Youngstown music scene forever.
Okay.
He plays trombone as his primary instrument. My aunt Nancy Bazzari, she's a big part of she had a big part in the Youngstown music scene. So I grew up in a very musical family. Mm-hmm. Brother plays guitar, other plays saxophone, all this, and I was just like, I'm not gonna. That's how big of a jerk I am. I'm just like, if the rest of my family are doing music, screw music. I'm not gonna do it.
But like, the good part that would stick with you is performance of
absolutely.
poetry.
Exactly. So I would make bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a band, Tabax's Man, for a couple of years. These different bands where I would, I'd build these podiums, and I'd do these, these things, and we'd have, bass and big stand-up basses and cellos and all this big swelling stuff, and it was just amazing. And then I met my friend Nick Trinkner, and we kind of, for a little while, we made kind of a performance team. And that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. We would do these things. I got asked to be a part of a poetry show at the Cleveland Public Theater. And it was great, like really, really great poets were performing in this. Mary Weems, Daniel Gray Contar, like really established poets. And I'd done some theater work with the theater before. So Raymond Bobkin, the guy who runs it, he asked, "Hey, do you want to be involved in this thing?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I couldn't figure out what to do, so I talked with my friend Nick. And we put our heads together and we came up with this idea. It was during an election period where we would run for president. And I would be the salt of the earth Republican conservative candidate. He'd be like the ivory tower elitist intellectual Democratic candidate. And we would have different moderators for each performance. It was like a 4-week run, 4 days a week. And we'd have different moderators, and they would read actual questions from previous presidential debates, and then we would answer them in poem.
Oh.
And it devolved into just chaos. But it was great, because the great thing about Nick was wherever I would go, he'd be right there. You know what I mean? And wherever he would go, I'd be right there. And it was like we were just kind of. It was one of those great moments when you meet somebody and it's like you just work so well together. So he really pushed me forward a lot too. He's still amazing. He's writing an epic poem right now about the salt barons. We were driving from Youngstown to Cranberry for some reason. This is after we moved back here. And we were driving on the turnpike, and you get to the Ohio Turnpike where they collect the last toll, and you have a short period where you pay the first toll for Pennsylvania. And our thought was, who is in charge of this little stretch? And we saw those big, Quonset huts with all the salt in them. And we thought, this is where the salt barons, who they hoard the salt and then they dole it out to each state during the winter and all that. And then that went on to this. So he's writing this big epic poem about the salt barons. He's amazing.
That's a cool idea. And I have to say, election style, a way to make poetry interesting, that's a good idea, man. If that's what you were doing, answering in poetic form. I mean, that's one of the hardest things you could do. My brother worked at the Wick Poetry Center, and, it's like, they did such a good job, but it was because they had young people on staff that were putting up flyers like they were rock shows.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
treating it like, instead of just putting up a little paragraph in the cafeteria, they went off campus and put it up, in coffee shops and put it up in place. And it was just like a way to make the poetry what it should be, a performance.
Absolutely.
Because, sometimes people were stuffy about it.
Yes. And that was another thing that was great about the Literary Cafe Poetry series in Tremont was it built to a place where it was like, these were performances. You know what I mean? And people really, you developed flair, and you developed characters, and you developed it was invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. A tiny little place, and you'd go there and you get drunk. I mean, there were, I remember one of the greatest ones. It was so great. I don't think about it. This was actually at the closing of that first Allman and Trenkner debate show. We all went back to the Literary Cafe after the closing, and we drank and we all read poetry, because these were all a bunch of really great poets. And Rafiq Washington, who owns Guide to Culture books in right by the Capitol Theater and right by the Cleveland Public Theater right now. He came in to read, and he's like, "You guys all suck." He was going to read this big thing, and he just got up there and he's like, "I'm not even going to read this, man. You guys need to start taking yourselves a little more seriously. You guys all suck. You get up here, you read your crappy poetry." And it was like a firestorm. Boom! People screw. It was just chaos. And you're thinking, this is a poetry reading?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And that was when?
Amazing.
What year?
Jeez.
Approximately.
I'd say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
See, that's not long ago, man. You're describing what I've heard very similar things about things that happened in San Francisco or in the
absolutely.
50s.
Absolutely.
And that was said to be the heyday. And you just described 6 years ago in Tremont.
Oh man, this stuff.
That's amazing.
You know what I've realized over my life is that don't get too freaked out. If you're in a bad spot, if things are dead for the moment, don't get too freaked out. That's how it works. Yeah. You can't, those poetry readings are gone now. They've been gone for years. But you get that time. And I think the important thing is when you're in those times to recognize it and to get the most out of them when you're in them. Because it doesn't. Look, CBGB's is closed.
Yeah.
Nothing lasts. You get 4 years, maybe,
Yeah,
if you're lucky.
Right. That's right. At least venue to venue, genre to genre, as far as in an area like this, at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 years.
And
yeah.
then things will die for a little while,
Right.
and they'll pick back up again. That's the way that
They'll
it works.
pick up a little. Well, that's cool. And then so like coming from a family who was musical, running into poetry, playwriting, and then painting, is painting poetic then? Or is this you just draw a line and you're like,
No.
hey, this is painting.
No.
That's not poetry.
It's tough. I don't know. It would be tough to just like it happened so kind of gradually because I couldn't draw a lick. I couldn't draw at all because I had never really drawn before. So when I started working, I started doing stencils because I made this little light box and I'd take a magazine and I'd put a piece of paper or plastic over it. At first I was like, it's so funny how you streamline your efforts. Because when I first started, I would like get pieces of paper and then I would put shelf paper, like a sticky shelf paper, and I'd cover a piece of paper with sticky shelf paper, and I'd draw these stencils out, and I was just tracing at that time. Like I'd have an image underneath it, and I'd put the piece of paper on top of it, and I'd trace it, and then I'd, try to figure out where the shadows were, and then I'd cut them out and spray paint them, and it was just all messy, and I'd get 2 sprays out of it, and then, you start getting dumb and political, and you're like, oh, I'm going to say this about this thing. Then, you spray it I remember the first time that I sprayed a stencil on a building, I felt terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I got a
really
buddy
felt
who
bad.
did that. He put it on the side of a bridge. He put it on the side of a wall, like all around Mahoning. And I think, it was like he loved it. And it was like he didn't really get political, but it was like he did fun, like clever things. Like he wrote, like, please don't. It was something funny, like, please touch the paintings, or just something funny outside. But I can imagine the first time you being like, what did I do?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
I like this place.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm spray paint on the side.
Yeah.
But then it kind of turned because people were like, oh, actually I can't remember who the first person was, but they were like, can you just spray that on a t-shirt? Would that stay on a t-shirt?
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure. So I tried it, and it did. So then I just started doing it on, like, anything I could find. Tires, old screen doors, like any junk that I could find, I would spray paint them. And then I was very ambitious because I had ambitious is a weird term. I had performed before. I had done these things. So when I first started doing art, I very quickly started showing it.
Because you recognized you had 4 years to go, right? It's
Yeah,
like-
exactly.
No,
It was
yeah,
like,
but, something like that.
I started
Yeah.
showing it, and I shouldn't have. That's the
Oh, is that
not
too
good.
too early? Huh?
It just wasn't. It wasn't. I don't know. It was like, you want to. This is what you want to show. Like, this is. You want to put this stuff in front of people. But it was fun. I mean, I had a ball. I've always had really, really supportive people. Like during that time, Chuck Karnak, who runs All Go Signs in Cleveland, he has this beautiful warehouse space and studio space, and he was great. He would throw parties that were just bananas, bringing bands, art everywhere, all these forward-thinking ideas. Ingenuity in Cleveland. We were one of the first, like our group, this like All Go Signs group, which involved a lot of different artists at that time. We ran like the building that the casino is in now. They just gave us that building, and they were like, "Here, clean it up a little bit, and you can do this thing." So we were like, it was just madness, but it was just fun, early stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was very loose. We were just having a lot of fun, but they were very. I've always had luck in having really supportive people who've helped me out a lot.
So the parallel isn't that so much that you think of painting as musical or musical as poetry or poetry as image worthy. It's performance. The performance is your common denominator.
Well, that's thank you for getting me back to it because
That's what you're really saying here.
It's all in one line.
Yeah.
Like you can see how one led to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's like the music, or like that musical aspect of the performance led to the poetry. The poetry led to the playwriting. The playwriting led to this, and then the visual art, the stencils led to the printmaking. The printmaking led to the painting. So it's like they're all connected.
Right.
Like when I'm here and when I'm painting, there's music involved. There's a lot of literary influences. Like it's funny. Like I say, like I'm I'm adding literary elements back into it. But if you look, all my stuff has literary elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
And generally it's like the idea comes kind of from that.
Right.
So I think it's just kind of all connected. Like I finally come to a place in my life where, and not to say, but where I try not to worry too much about it. Like you just kind of do it. You know, you think like, I'd kind of like to try this thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm very lucky that, you know, when I'm feeling good, when I'm feeling healthy, give it a try. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'd like to start a band here in Youngstown. Just because. Because I think it'd be fun.
Right. Well, it sounds like to me your jumping off point is for you, but then you have the good sense and the compassion to then, if someone says, "Will you spray this on a T-shirt? Will you do this? Will you do that?"
Absolutely.
Then it is for the other people at the end of the day. Yeah. And you're just saying per person what they think about it. You have higher and lower values when it comes to like you like the artistic crowd to be your crowd, obviously. So they'll think more about it.
I think if I'm being honest with myself, it's all just protection.
For
you know what I mean? Exactly.
Okay.
It's all like.
Yeah, I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
No,
so
no,
it
not at
starts
all.
with like
you're making me
you're saying
kind of
it's
think about it
protection
myself.
for you. You're just you're just still willing to entertain other people with what you're protecting yourself with.
Oh,
yeah.
It's great for somebody to like what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's even greater.
But you'd be doing it anyways.
It's even greater if somebody that you really admire likes what you do. But I'll tell you, it's. I got a little screwed up earlier this year because a person that I really admired. We met, and he was like, "Oh, bring your stuff by," you know, because it was like at the Butler show at the area artist show, and he saw the stuff, and he was like, "Oh, bring your stuff over. You know, I'd like to see what kind of stuff." So I did, and he was like, "Oh, this stuff's really great," and then it got in my head like, so do I keep doing what I'm doing? You know what I mean? Like, what did I do in this? What was my thought? And then you just get all like caught up in that part, and it kind of screwed me up a little bit.
Okay.
So even when somebody tells you they like what you do, that can screw you up. When people tell you they don't like what you do, that can screw you up. So it's like I just try my hardest to just say okay.
Yeah,
like
not knowing the effect, but knowing that there is one. Yeah.
Yeah, just like if
Assuming
whatever somebody
best,
says,
yeah.
exactly. Whatever somebody says, it's like, great. I'm glad that you feel that way.
But I'd like you not to tell me too much about it, or you're gonna make me crazy.
Well, exactly. You know, you just can't, or I can't. I always say you.
No, you're right.
When I say you,
you mean me and everyone else, because you're totally right. Anytime at a show, if I see somebody and they say they like something, or if they say this, I don't tell them. They don't tell me much of why they like it, and I sure as hell am not going to tell them much of what the song's about, because we will both ruin each other's world. Like we will both ruin each other's interpretation.
I have a difficult time going to gallery openings and stuff like that, because it's like, although the last gallery opening that I did was a really important one, a really transitional one. It was that was kind of when I made this transition from printmaking into painting. Was a show that I did at the Steve Mastroianni Gallery in Tremont again, who's an awesome guy. Like he was always around the literary cafe, and he was such a good guy. So you know, it was kind of like a return to Cleveland, show people what I had been doing, and it was really kind of my first, you know, the gallery show, you know, the gallery and the whole 9 yards and all that. And I had done stuff with Lemon Grove, and I'd done stuff with, but that's like, these are friends, and you know, like you feel very safe in those kind of circumstances.
Okay, yeah.
And this was like contacting a professional person, somebody who does, you know, this is what they do. And I went and I hung the work, and I just got this feeling like, this is not, I just didn't feel like there was any of me in the show. It was all like kind of safe cultural references, you know, like poppy kind of stuff. Where if you're a 39-year-old white guy in the Midwest, you're gonna like all this stuff. You know, it's like comic influences and you know, like all these, you know, just stuff like, you know, safe. And I thought,
just not quite enough intensity or something.
And they were small, and they, you know, like I just got this feeling like, all right, if I'm gonna do this, you know, do it. Give people enough. You know what the thing that killed me was? Not killed me, but it was really eye-opening. because I almost compulsively share things on social media. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just do. Like,
Well,
I'm
being
always,
a visual artist, it's just, it's probably, it's a good vein to be through, I suppose. But I guess there's a point where you could be like, oh man, what am I doing? But to me, it's great. You know, culturally, you're important culturally to Youngstown, because in the vein of you, I do hope you start a band like you said, but in the vein of music and visual, like you did a print of a band who is prominent in this area, Sam Goodwill, and that was really culturally relevant. And
I really liked the photographs that Melanie was taking. They were great. Yeah, like so that's another thing is it's like I had to get that idea of like trying to, I was using a lot of other people's pieces as, as subject matter and stuff like that. And I was I got to a place where I was like doing pretty realistic copies. Like I could take something and really make it look, you can still tell it was my style. But and then I was like, okay, well, I think I'm done with that. Like I got.
And you probably did to what extent you could do with it, because like it was really important to me as an observer to see that you were doing not like doing references to anything is great once in a while, but like it was cool that you were doing Ohio references locally, and that was important. But I know what you're saying. Like if you were to have a show in a gallery and you included some of that, great. It's fantastic. But you want to include some other stuff with a bunch of intensity, so there's more of you in that variety.
Well, the way that I felt about it was exactly that there wasn't a lot of that I was doing a good job of representing other people's work. I was doing a good job of that, but I didn't feel. And what was funny was people like walked into the gallery and they'd be like, "Oh, I saw that on the internet."
Yes.
And it was like that was enough. That now they saw it in person, but it was like, "Oh, I saw it." I saw the pictures.
That was enough to see it on the internet.
Exactly. Like it's not really that much different. Like they were, a little bigger, but it's like you got the idea.
Interesting. And because I saw on the internet, to describe to listeners that this is an audio podcast, what I bought from Eric is this really cool painting of a guy wearing 3D glasses looking at his own hand through the glasses. And I saw it online, came and got it. It's hanging up in my house now. So like it wasn't enough for me to just see it online. I had to have it.
Right.
So I hope that more people are more like that in the future.
Oh, sure.
But I know what you mean.
That was from Fallout, from the video game Fallout.
Oh, great. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
to me, it was just so great that the dude was looking at his hand through 3D glasses when it was already 3D and blah, 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 and whatever aesthetic I can't explain about what I liked. I don't want to make it.
Just liked it.
I don't want to not shroud it in mystery, but then again, I don't want to talk too much about it. But I would hope that more people were like me. They see it online, they beeline it to your gallery, and they buy it.
That happened a lot. Like it was, that was the thing was it was like, but I think it's almost like a cover band. I just thought of that. It's like a cover band. Like you start out doing covers of other people's work. That's how it works. Like nobody pops up and are like Bone Machine era Tom Waits. Okay. You know what I mean? Like nobody pops up and is like, you start out, you're feeling it out. I just happen to start a lot later. So when
you're now you're in your sweet spot right now.
I feel like I am. I feel like I've stopped doing cover songs and I've started writing originals. They're clunky.
Got some references in now.
They're kind of ugly, right?
Into your own thing.
I would like to think so. Think so. And it feels, it's just like it just feels like what I want to be doing right now. And I didn't even understand what it was like understanding the principles and the processes of painting. Like I would just paint whatever I felt like painting, and then when I was done with that painting, I'd start another painting. And now, for the first time, I feel like I'm thinking about this one thing, and I did one painting of it, and I was like, that's good. But I think there's more to kind of do in that. So I'm doing like what I consider my first kind of series of paintings, which was really, it's fun. I'm having a really good time.
So like most artists of any sort, I'm like 4 years behind where you are now in my perception of you. Like I find that to be the case a lot when you're like, especially just in the Midwest in Ohio. Like you'll be like, we have a new album. I have a new portfolio of paintings. I have a new thing, and everybody will be talking about your 5 year ago thing like they just found it because it takes so long.
Sure.
And and I think that's still true in big business and big. I heard Jerry Seinfeld, biggest of all the biggest comedians, say that like it takes you 20 years to get in to the show business. Then you're in there, you're old, and then you start getting booked every day, and you start running and running and running. And so like I've found that like, and that's not to say I don't want to make a direct comparison with someone as big as him.
Yeah.
But I just want to apply that to like. In Ohio, it's like, okay, people start singing your song or hanging your painting when you're already like, I've moved on from that. I've written something else, or I've painted something.
Absolutely.
And I'm not complaining. That's cool. But it's just very slow to take. And like, so, yeah, I do want, if anyone's listening, I want them to know, man, Eric's in his sweet spot now. So you got to find his stuff now.
I really appreciate that. Like, that's a lot of... That is a good feeling, and that's another nice thing about social media. And I think that's why it's like we move back to youngsters. I don't know, because we're in the middle of it, so it's difficult to comment on it when you're in the middle of it. But I think the whole paradigm's changing. Like if the internet has changed music so dramatically, and the internet has changed film so dramatically, it's not going to change visual art dramatically? Of course it is. It's changing visual art dramatically. It's changing all these aspects. I don't even know what they are. But it's like, I know that it's all useful. Whether there's a positive or whether there's a negative, those are meaningless. Like putting a value on it is meaningless. It has use. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it is. Where it is for me right now is like, yes, I'm here in Youngstown, but when I post a picture, I'm showing it to the people that I know who are in Cleveland, people I know who are in Columbus, people I know who are in California, all the different areas that I've lived. I still have contact with all those people. Where in the past, they would just be, relegated to memory.
It wouldn't be 4 years, it'd be like 10 years till they found out that you even painted anything, because they'd have to see it in real life. Yeah, that's true.
So, like, I have a show, I'm very lucky, I have a show coming up in August at Gallery 160. I'm sure he's probably going to listen to this, and I hope that he does, because this was a really funny feeling. Like my friend Rafiq, he introduced me to Brian, who owns Gallery 160, and I sent him some pictures of some of my stuff. This was like a year and a half ago, and I was like, I'd like to do a show, and he was like, and I kind of saw, like, it forced me to kind of look and say, you know what, maybe I'm not being very professional, because I wasn't. I was being a little coy, and I was being kind of stupid, like, send a video instead of pictures, and and I looked at the stuff that I was sending, and I'm like, this isn't, it's like Our Lady of Guadalupe prints, and you know what I mean, like, and it really made me go back and say, all right, if you're going to do this, do it. Stop being so coy about it. Like, you eventually have to come to a place where you're like, you know what, for better or for worse, this is what I'm doing. This is it.
Yeah.
And own it, and stand there and say, yes, this is what I do. And then when I looked at it, I was like, this isn't good enough. So I spent a year like chugging along, and really trying to push myself, and really trying to try new things, and really, and then I sent him a message, a couple of weeks ago. I was like, hey, you remember me? I've been working really hard this last year. I think I have some new pieces that I'd like to show you. He's like, well, come on by, to the studio. So I rolled up a bunch, and I showed like a rolled up carpet, and I rolled them out, and he was like, these are good, like, let's do a show in August, and it was like this feeling of validation for the last year's work.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that was a really good feeling. Like, it felt like that year was worth it. Of course the year was worth it.
No, totally. But it's good to know that, like, you're hard on yourself more than anyone else would ever be, and you're dismissing things that other people really love, and then you show it, and they're like, dude, no, for real, the whole body of it is awesome. And that's cool that it actually worked to validate you, and you weren't like, shut up, you're just being nice, it's all horrible. That there was at least a breaking point where you could be like, Thank you.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see it too. I like it too sometimes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I'm really excited. We have the show, and that water. I don't know if you've been to that neighborhood by the Beachland lately, but it was like I hadn't been there in probably about a year. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, like the murals that they have in that neighborhood, and they expanded the street, and they have the walking area, and then of course there's Blue Arrow Records in that neighborhood, and the Beachland. Like I was really thrilled.
So plug that for listeners. You're talking about an August show?
7th.
And where's this?
This is at Gallery 160 on Waterloo, like a block and a half down from the Beachland Ballroom.
In Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was it?
August 7th.
August 7th.
August
sorry.
7th.
And then tell people, because social media is there, where can they go to look at your stuff?
I'm going through a little bit of a transition right now where this again goes back to everything having value. Mm-hmm. I feel like the presentation of the work has value. I feel like I remember there was an author. This was a couple of years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. I think it was before my oldest daughter was born. There was an author, J.T. Leroy, and it was supposed to be like this 14-year-old boy who dressed up like a girl and wore masks and wrote stories about being a lot lizard and all these crazy things that had happened. And God, I was just fascinated with these books because just the voice in the books was so remarkable. The writing was so good. The stories were so great. And this was like a 15-year-old boy writing these stories, you know? And then it turned out that it wasn't a 15-year-old boy. It was a married couple in San Francisco who had created this character, J.T. Leroy, and wrote these books. And everybody was super pissed. There's this whole big thing. Oh, my God, how could do that? And I'm sitting there thinking, that was great. Like, what a great, wow. Like, who cares what this married couple in San Francisco? You could write exactly the same stories, and I could care less.
If it's good, it's good. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, the thing is I don't know if I would have ever even read them.
Oh, if it wasn't the put under that.
Right. If a married couple co-writing a book about
so you did appreciate
lizard,
that they did it
I
like that, from that vein.
Exactly. I loved the fact that they thought to themselves, we're a yuppie married couple in San Francisco.
That's not going to get enough attention.
I don't even know if it's going to get enough attention, but it's like, why not really go for it?
Just be theatrical about it.
Exactly. Why not make the whole thing art? That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like, I feel like I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? I don't want to waste any aspect of this because this right now I feel like I'm in a really fun place as far as my life is concerned, as far as art is concerned, and I kind of want to take advantage of each aspect of it. You know what I mean? So like with this show, I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna try to transition. And this goes. My middle name is Leroy, and my family has always pronounced it Leroy. Because it's a family name. I think my grandfather had it or something like that. So it's Eric Leroy Allman. But when you look at it, it's Leroy. So when I was a kid and people would call me Leroy, I'd be like, oh, it's Leroy. Then as I got older, I met my friend Timothy Leroy Grimsley, and he went by Leroy. And then you have like the whole cultural aspect of the name Leroy and all these different kinds of things that were happening. And I was like, I really like the idea of masks. I like the idea of this. So I think I'm gonna use this show coming up on the 12th to use every aspect of where I'm at right now.
Oh, that's good. Well, then, so people, guys, if you're interested in going to this show and you want to see what his stuff looks like, just go on a search engine, whichever one, and then search. No, you're good.
So Eric Leroy.
No.
So Eric Leroy. Is
search Eric Leroy.
Instagram?
No, just kidding.
Eric Leroy, but it's like, of course, Eric Leroy was taken, so it's like _RIC_. I should make something easier.
No, you know,
That's good.
if people go to a search engine, whichever one you choose, probably Google.
Yeah, Eric
you know what? Go to
Allman.
37.com and search Eric. No, sorry. Eric Allman. That's
Wait, Nursery has. Do you guys have a website?
And of course, I will link you.
Yeah,
I have a
link to it.
website.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll do that, guys. But just in the event that you're down, I think very long term. In the event that you're way down the line, like just go on whatever we have and search Eric, ERIC, and then Allman, ALLEMAN.
That is correct.
Just search him. Maybe type in art afterwards. You'll find some stuff. You'll get the gist.
I've had websites for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's as much as I like.
You don't want to nail it down just to that.
But not only that,
Yeah.
as much as I like my part, I feel like this is very selfish, but I feel like social media I use it to express.
Yeah.
I try my best. I mean, I look at all this stuff and all that, but I try my best to monitor, to keep that aspect of it under control, because I think I personally have issues with all that kind of stuff, so I can just get lost in that. You know, you start to. There was a really interesting episode. You're familiar with the television show Community?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that show.
That's
I
a
thought it
good
was
show.
really
Yeah.
funny, really sharp. I love Chevy Chase. I know everybody thinks
Yeah.
he's a big jerk. I think that guy's like
But he did good in the
funniest
show.
person
Yeah,
in
it
the
was
world.
funny.
He's a jerk. He's funny too.
Sure.
But they had an episode where he bought something called ear binoculars. It was like a little satellite dish that he would put in his ear, and he could hear things that were far away.
Yeah.
And he kept misconstruing what people would say, and he would think that they were being mean to him, or he would be doing this. And it was really heavy-handed, and it was comedic. But at the end of it, somebody asked him, like, "Hey, where did the ear binoculars go?" And he said, "Oh, I got rid of them." You're only supposed to hear what the people in this area are saying, because the people who are this close are the people that care about you, people that love
Yes.
you. You don't want to hear what the people over there are saying about you,
No.
because they might not like you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if they don't like you.
No.
That's the big secret in life, is not everybody has to like you.
No.
You're going to have enemies, you're going to have people who hate you. That's fine.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a funny thing to even care to hear the other stuff, because no one's going to listen to this who doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, there's
I'm
no
sure
fear.
I'm sure there'll be 3 or 4 people who just hate listening
They'll
to
turn
this.
it off.
Like, goddamn Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
That
and they'll
Eric's a big jerk.
and they'll just turn it right off, and it'll be fine. Like, that's what's neat about it, is that, like, there's no worry about that. They will just not be here if they hate us. So,
Yeah,
so it's all good.
So with the social media, it's like you got to take it, because that's unfiltered, man.
Yeah.
That's just raw, ego. Like, that's just, you're getting raw, uncut news from everybody you know.
Hashtag no filter, but
that
they
can get
mean
heavy.
emotionally
Yeah,
no filter.
That can get heavy. It's like, I have enough stuff to carry. Man.
Yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know?
that's good, man. It's good that you don't stick too much with. If I ask you, like, to plug yourself, you're not boxing in too much, because you're going through changes, you're doing different things, and that things could change. People just know, like, look up Eric Allman. They'll find your art. They'll just be like, hey, do I like this or do I not? And they'll figure it out. Yeah.
Plus, I'll tell you something that I'm really appreciating now is I don't like the promotion and the trying to all that kind of stuff. That can take up your whole life as well. That can become such a huge thing, where it's like it can. I don't know if it's consumed me in the past, but it can. It can get to the place where it's like, where then it influences the work that you're doing. It influences the art that you make.
That's true. That's true.
The nice part about being artists or being, if you work with someone who's professional, you work with somebody who knows what they're doing, they're going to handle that part. Mm-hmm. That's their job. Mm-hmm. They have the walls, they have the building, and they get the people there. I'll post something. Hey, everybody, if you want to come and see the art. But the thing is, this is a funny thing that I've noticed about this time in life. You can curate the information that comes into you to such a fine degree. Like, if you're a super liberal, vegan, long distance runner, you can make it so that all the information you get is from people who agree with
Super liberal,
long distance runners.
Yeah.
If you're a racist, blah, 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 this and that. You can fine-tune it where you never get outside information. You never get information that, like, challenges you. Mm-hmm. And I think especially in like social media and stuff like that, I'm preaching to the choir, man.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, hey, I'm going to have this show, I have to say it once, and everybody who is able to go or wants to go is going to be like, oh, I'll go to that. It's not like I'm going to convince somebody to go. If I write about it 30 times, it's like, fine, you beat me into it. I'm going to go to your show. They either go or they don't. You know, so it's like, I try not to beat people over the head with that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, it's all so, it's, I'm making it sound like it's this big thing, but it is. Like, I think,
No, I think the only merit in beating people over the head with stuff like that is your 4-year rule. Is that like you know that they're going to be there and gone, and you're going to have to do it again with someone new. That's the only way to. That's the only reason I see justified for beating people over the head. That's the only reason whenever I've been a victim of falling into doing something based on promotion rather than whatever I'm doing. It's always been because you realize like, even if they just think you're brilliant, they are in and out. Yes. They're just in and out. Like even if they just love it. They're there and they're gone with their job or their move or their kids or their this or their that, and you just have to keep maybe shaking people's hands and becoming buddies with someone new who may end up at your show in August or may end up somewhere else. So it's more just like a rotating cast than hopefully the same guy reading it 30 times, which would be horrible. So I totally get what you're saying. Because you're right. You just post it on the same forum over and over again. What's the purpose? It's only about those 4-yearers who have had their time up and somebody else has come to replace them. You don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
That's about it. Because otherwise, you know who your appreciating fans are already. You got them. And hopefully you'll win more at this Cleveland thing just through stragglers that might come in, people, friends of friends.
Absolutely. And then I'm excited now about... you know, just kind of pushing it out there. Like, we're so close. Like, I'm trying to get a show together in Pittsburgh, Columbus, Long Island. Like, it's more than anything. And I think, just, you know, I think I've come to a place where it's like, I know I can't do all of it. I used to try to do all of it. You know, like when I was doing the theater, it's like, directing and writing and acting and doing all this. And it's like now I just want to do one thing, and I'm going to try to do it the best that I can, and that's it. Like I think I've changed the idea of what success is at this point. I think I've changed the idea of what I think. Like as long as the painting's good, that's it. Like that's all.
Everything else will be all right.
I think it'll work itself out. And if it doesn't,
smart.
Yeah, if it doesn't, whatever.
That's probably smart, man. I'm 31 right now. You say you're 40, is that right? Maybe, I mean, that's probably words of wisdom. I'm sitting here trying to do podcasts, skits, music, blah, 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 and now the line 10 years from now, I hope that I'm simplified in some way or the other. So it's probably good advice.
You know, I think it all happens exactly the way that it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. You know, when you look back, that road seems very, very clear.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Totally.
And it's like, I'm perfectly happy where I'm at right now. Like, I'm very lucky. Moving back to Youngstown, it's funny. It's like when we moved back here, like with any move, you think, well, this is the way this is going to go. You know, like this is what's going to happen. And then you do it, and it's like, does not work out that way at all. Absolutely does not work out that way at all. But it turns out that it worked out a whole lot better.
That's good, man, because people here love you, man. People in Youngstown value you, and that's why I'm here, you know. So that's the idea. It's like
that's very
you need
nice
people like you here.
I'll tell you, I try to keep quiet and I try to stay in my studio because I don't want them to get to know me too well because maybe they'll stop liking me.
Smart. I'm just kidding.
You keep quiet and don't make any trouble. No, it's
at least in the vein of not telling too much about your work. I'm with you. Yeah. Because then it'll ruin whatever they think it's about.
And just, man, how lucky am I, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living in Youngstown. I got this beautiful studio. You know, I go down to the draft house with my cousin. We drink $2 Great Lakes beers and eat some wings. And then, you know, on a Monday night, it's like, I walk through the park from my house to get to the studio.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know,
That is
what could be
lucky.
better?
And all the people I know who have fallen anywhere near whatever scene you and me are describing, they're just wonderful people. So, like, it's just been, big time luck with a large group of people here who all happen to fall into the same little slot of, like, art stuff, whatever it is. So.
And it's funny because like my wife's from Youngstown as well, and when we were growing up, I was out in California, but when she was like growing up, you had like Boogeyman Smash, you had the Reveler, you had Cedars, all this kind of craziness, and you know everything was very thriving. But if I don't know, this is just personally from my perspective, it just seems like everything's in a state of flux right now. Everything's kind of changing, you know. So, you know, nothing's done. It feels like everything's just kind of getting started, you know. Like this, I'm really excited to see what happens. You know, now it's not gonna be for me. I'm not at the place where I'm, you know, going up every weekend and going to shows, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's, you know, you have kids, you have those, you know, those kind of things keep you at home. But it seems like, all right, you know what? Can we talk a little bit more, or were you okay? You know what, the thing that I miss from when I was young, and I don't know if it's because as a culture we've kind of commodified. You know what? I'm gonna grab something to drink.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I don't know if it's because everything has been commodified, but I miss the old like DIY spaces where you could experiment, where you could do like dumb shows.
Yeah.
Where there was just a coffee can, people would throw a buck in, and it would be like, is it culturally that those things have been? Because like in Cleveland, you would see them, and they'd be open for a year, sometimes less.
Right.
It would be in somebody's house, you know, when you'd go there, and it would be. Nick used to do these great PowerPoint presentations. You know, there'd be all this kind of weird stuff, and it's like, now granted, I'm not connected. Is there that here in Youngstown that I just don't know about?
I mean, anytime I've seen it, it's usually just been from a musician friend who temporarily turns their house into that, and I don't think it happens very much here. I know there are people here that really want it, and I know there are people here. I know there are people not far from us who have had some mainline into that scene. I knew a guy who upheld this punk zine called Black Cloud forever in Columbus, and he had this mainline into all these DIY houses, and he just stayed at all these different ones, and was the designated like photographer for their concerts. And
like
that was like
Akron
his
has
thing.
the Noise Cave, and
I'm not really
different one every
I'm not
couple of
direct
months.
lined into that.
Right.
You'd think I'd have knowledge being from whatever genre we do, but I'm a little too old to quite like. They're the people that got into it seem to have got into it 10 years ago and then just like held on for dear life.
Yeah.
And there's I'm not saying there's 20-year-olds doing shows. They just all seem knit real nicely.
Yeah.
And like we played a house show in Columbus recently, but it wasn't quite tied into that vibe. It was a great house show, but it wasn't quite that punk like people were living here. The closest I've come is we played in Toledo, Ohio, the place called the Black Cherry Info Shop, and it was a straight up anarchist basement where they raised money and donated grains of food to churches, and like they had their act together as far as like they did all kinds of stuff. There was crazy graffiti in the basement of like abortions and like all kinds of wild stuff, and I thought maybe for a second when they had us load in that they were just going to shut the basement door on it. You know, it's like I just didn't know. And so that's the closest we came. So like, I think it's alive and well in the surrounding areas, but I wonder about Youngstown. If anyone's here is listening, tell us, man.
Yeah,
Eric and I want to know.
I know people are listening to it. They're like, "Well, do it."
You know yourself. It's hard.
Exactly.
I'm where you are, man. It's not really for me. The flux. No, they're not right. You and me are past that.
Right. I'd like to be the old guy. People are like, "Why is that old guy hanging out at this show?"
And that's fine. But like the flux you mentioned, you're 40, I'm 31. We both are building stuff in the art scene in Ohio, but by the time the flux ends, we'll be on the porch looking out being like, those young whippersnappers don't know what we...
I feel like I feel like painting. I was just talking to my friend Liz from. Actually, you're gonna be playing a show with her. She's in Village Bicycle. And
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
Gonna be, I just saw that. I looked it up today. You guys are gonna be playing a show together. She's awesome. That's a
Nice.
really, really great band. She was in the studio. That was amazing. I rented this little room. I went there because my friend Mike Cormier wanted to record. I have a couple of CDs that came out, which were just I couldn't be happier. They'd just be stories and poems, stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
And one day he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I want you to record this story that you did. Come on down." He had paid for it. I didn't even know that he had paid for it. I just went down. My little brother Benton, came with us, and he played the Hammond. And I told this story and read like 10 or 15 poems. And at the end of it, Eric Schulte, or Eric Voxcaster from Cleveland, he was like, "Dude, you should hang out down here." He's like, we got this room back here if you want to rent it. And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fantastic." So I rented the studio, but it was like all the Davenport guys, like the Dreadful Yawns, Megachurch, Space Race, like who then became Cloud Nothings, who were like touring the world, and they're these big, it was just, I was the visual artist down in this little area, so I'd go down and I'd make these stencils and I'd spray them on a t-shirt and I'd take them out and I'd be like, "Hey, what do you guys think?" And they'd be like, "Hey," but it was like all these bands, the Hot Rails, we're all practicing in this. It was just amazing.
It's
it was
funny you say that,
absolutely amazing.
Because another
One of the
guy on
greatest
that same July 25th bill with Village Bicycle, DePrater Kearns, Derek DePrater has
Derek
some
DePrater,
history
sure.
with what, Guided by Voices? No, something in that realm.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's neat to hear all these connections with people you're hanging out with, because I think of Guided by Voices when you mentioned Cloud
Nothings, yeah.
too, and yeah, you could just keep going forever, I'm sure.
Oh, it's
but
that Ohio, like
it's that small town Ohio thing.
Absolutely,
This person
man.
knows this. Everybody
Absolutely.
knows when you've been to the doctor. Everybody knows. When
I got to
you've been-
confess,
Yeah,
I got into Guided by Voices late in life.
yeah. Me too, man.
It hit at
yeah.
exactly the right time. Just like
Yeah.
talking about painting came along in my life at exactly the right time. Because if it would have come along earlier, I don't know. What's the reason that you're doing it? Those are always important aspects. Like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And I think especially now, like, who was I talking to about this?
Was it
Can't
DJ?
remember. No, I was talking to
You got me into Guided by Voices.
Oh.
It's always somebody who tells me that we sound like somebody that I haven't heard of, and then I know. Then,
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
never like cool enough to be like, totally, we're influenced by them.
No,
it's
like-
always late. It's like Calvin Johnson, Guided by
Yeah.
Voices, all these cool bands I should have known when I was like 20, and I had no clue.
I'll tell you how the first time I ever heard of them, and I'm embarrassed to say this because they're such a great band.
Yeah.
It was, I don't even know how many years ago, probably 8 years ago, 10 years, something like that. We do this yearly camping thing called Picnic of Chaos. It's like a Burning Man offshoot. It's people who, we can't go to Burning Man for the whole thing. I've never been, but I mean, I've had friends who've been going from me. It was never something like that. With the MS net, my wife won't let me go because she feels like I might have an attack on there and things might get bad.
Sure.
So we have this thing locally. We just go down south, and we rent out the back half of this campground, and then we just kind of drink beer and build stuff, and then set it all on fire on Saturday night. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So one day, this guy Matt Cassidy, who's really fantastic, he's in New Planet Trampoline with like. They're just the greatest band in the world. They're greatest. Craig Chonacki was DJing, and he put the song on, and Matt stood up on a picnic table in the middle of this campground and started singing along. I think it was Tractor Rape Chain or something like that. And I was just like, I'd never heard this. Could you imagine that? Like 2 o'clock in the morning, out in the middle of nowhere, somebody gets up and just starts belting out like Tractor Rape, and I was just like, psh. So that was a nice way. That was another. So I'll tell you another story about Picnic of Chaos. It's probably like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I think this is a couple of years after the one that I just told you about. In the middle of this field, you see these two like lit up about eye level, these two lit up like eyeballs bouncing through the dark. And then you see this little red light click on, and you start hearing Maggot Brain on guitar. And I walked out there, and in the middle of this field, like 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody is dressed in a homemade, the Watcher from the Marvel Universe, the guy who lives on the moon and watches the universe. He's big head.
Okay.
A homemade papier-mâché Watcher outfit playing Maggot Brain in the middle of a field at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was the greatest thing. So those are just it's wonderful. You know what? If anybody wants to go, get a hold of me through whatever. I'll give you the information.
That's cool.
It's one of the greatest things
that
in the
makes
world.
me think of that San Francisco couple because I'm not saying you wouldn't have liked it on its own, but it was all in the way that stuff was presented to you. Yeah,
I think
right.
presentation matters.
Yeah.
I think presentation. I think it's
at least a gateway to something you wouldn't have known you liked.
It's another part that you can add into the whole artistic process. You know what I mean? Like this is like, well, I'll work really hard on the paintings, but then I won't consider the presentation, or I'll work really hard. Like that's the funny thing is you think about the people who are the big names in art right now, Koons. I mean, like, that's the funny thing is like when you say that's so subjective. Like I say these are the big names in art,
especially for visual art,
and people are going to be like, "What?
Who's that? Yeah.
That's bullshit. He's not." But so that's what I'm not saying definitively that these are the names of the people who are moving that. But as far as like culturally, the people who are referenced, so on and so forth. It's like Koons and Mr. Brainwash and Banksy and like Street, and some of these guys. It's like that's the whole point of it. It's like if you look at the art, it's good. Mm-hmm. It's not like Koons especially. I mean, don't get me wrong; those sculptures. I mean, those you could eat off those things. You know what I mean? Like the machining. And I know people are like, "Oh, screw that," but hey. He went to school for it. His parents were artists. Like this is isn't a, he knows what he's doing, and that's the point. Is like the presentation is important. That every aspect of what he's doing.
Yeah, it's about like what the art's on, where it is, like the location culturally.
Every part.
Well, I think that's why you answered what you answered when I asked about where you think you are now as opposed to a few years ago, because Youngstown really is in this weird flux, there are venues and there are places that are jumping off points for people to find you or me or anyone else, but they're not really definitive like they were even just 3 years ago where like people associated a certain band with a venue.
Yes.
Now it's kind of like, it's really about like, whoa, what art do we really like just based on the artist? Because things are transitioning so much that people are kind of like the hardcore fans of visual art, music, poetry, whatever. They're just got the artist to hang on to right now. Yeah. In Youngstown, like
I'm fascinated.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated.
So they're waiting for the venue. They're waiting for the place to express it from. But right now, like I'm really excited that people still are paying attention to music in Youngstown when there's a lack of outlets like right now. Like it's really comforting to know that those people don't go away if a venue goes away. So it's like you said, it does matter the presentation and the whereabouts do, but it's nice that because those things existed at some point that the people will still stay with Banksy, Mr. Brainwash, with whoever or wherever they go now because they went one place. Absolutely. That it still could be like they still matter. They don't just have to keep doing this one thing in this one way.
Exactly.
Like you said, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It still matters. It can still be put in other places and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think and now there is that possibility for experimentation, for trying new things, because it is. It's like, people are kind of finding where these things are going to be. Like I was talking with Jimmy Sutman from Purple K. He's such an awesome guy. I read an article in New York about the U-Haul galleries, where people just buy U-Haul trucks, put galleries in the back of them, drive them onto a busy street where a bunch of people were, drop the back, boom, you got an art gallery. I think it's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
I think we should do some art gallery shows in the parking lots downtown, because there are parking lots right now that are completely empty, that nobody ever parks in, that are like cordoned off, and there's just walls, and not, you don't want to, you don't want to turn this into like a vandal thing. I'm not talking about, spray painting graffiti or anything like that, but just like, rolling up some big canvases, go down there, put some art up for the evening. You know what I mean?
That would be
like,
so great. Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend, and he's like, "No, you should never put art outside." So it's like there's all these kind of things that go along with it, but I don't know.
No, I mean,
I have all these like, oh, we should do this, we should do that. I know everybody's like, well, why don't you fucking do it?
why don't you do it?
You know what?
But still,
because I like the nice quiet studio with a locked door, and
which is cool. But you seem like a guy who would bring his art a lot of places if you were offered. So
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I like. I don't like. I like when people say. I don't like when people say we only do this here and we only do this for X amount and we only do this here, and then they just are gone. Like if they're not willing to be diverse and do it, then they won't do it.
Hopefully someday I reach that level of success
Where you can say that.
Where I can say, look,
Which
I
say
hope-
it. Say
exactly.
it if you can say it.
I hope I reach that level of success.
If you say it now, you just won't do anything. And like that's, I'm not saying at all like go play for free everywhere, or go do this or ever. Be respectable. Know that you can ask for a price. Know that you can earn. But like, I like when people can be transportable, and I like when they can be low maintenance. Like even right now, Sam from Sam Goodwill, he's working on a solo set that he's gonna bust out. Mm-hmm. It's great because like they have such a theatrical set, such a huge production, and if he can take that and break a piece off and just take it around to smaller venues, all the better.
The
all
first
the
time
better
I ever
for more
saw him
people.
perform was at the Lemon Grove with just a loop pedal and an acoustic.
That's exactly more of things like that. I think is what he's kind of in training for
Well,
right now.
it's fine. I hate to say this because I don't want this to sound like a negative thing, but it's like throughout the course of my life, I've gotten to a place where it's like the easiest way to do something is when you just do it yourself. Like when you don't have to rely on a bunch of other people to do things.
So you can go to a place that doesn't have ticket sales and this and that and the other, and just set it up yourself and then also take in whatever yourself without a middleman. It's just nice, yeah.
Absolutely.
And at least in the in between time, it's nice to know that you could pull a trailer up and open it up and there's art, or you can drag a couple things over your shoulder, roll them up, and walk into somebody's house and say, "Here, look."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh, I actually thought about that. Also, I'm going to be doing this in Cleveland at some point this summer. But I thought something that would be really fun would be garage art, because you have like that garage rock thing where people were like, and I thought a garage art show would be really fun where you just set up a gallery in somebody's garage.
That would
and
be
then
nice.
have like a little barbecue in the backyard. You have a fun time. I'm doing one in Cleveland. And I think that would be really fun around here. There are a lot of places on the north side where it's like big garages, big backyards.
Nice.
I think that would be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna look into that.
Nice.
I think that would be something fun to do here in Youngstown this summer. So if anybody has a nice big garage and wants to throw a barbecue in the
Guys, if you're listening, if you just want, all you have to do is say, "Come to my garage and just clean it out a bit," and Eric will be there, man. Just
I
tell
think
him.
that'd be fun.
Tell somebody, and it might happen, Youngstown.
Well,
We're relying on you.
I've listened to a couple of podcasts. I know that you had questions. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask me?
I like breaking format, but if there's any you'd like to answer, like, I see what you think about Ohio. It's good things, mostly.
I'm from here, absolutely.
yeah,
This is home. It's funny. I've lived in a lot of different places, Florida, and California, and and I've never felt, even other places in Ohio, living in Cleveland or living in Columbus, I've always felt like a visitor. You know what I mean? Like I'd go to pick up fish at a fish fry, and you'd walk into the church, and it would just be the most obvious thing in the world that like I'm an outsider. You know what I mean? Or you try to integrate yourself into a church or a school. It was a lot of it was myself. A lot of it was me putting this on myself. But I just never felt. I always felt like an outsider. Man, moving back here, it's like this is where I'm from. This is
For the
my
first
home.
time, that's how you feel now.
Yes, this is
That's
my
cool.
home. We left when I was 11.
Sometimes it takes just that long, though, huh?
Yeah, and this is my home. I am from Youngstown. This is my home, and I don't know. It's funny. It's two people can see the same thing through two sets of eyes and see completely different things. Like I always find it so remarkable that Youngstown's on the worst list for this, worst list. I have a beautiful studio for a very reasonable amount of money. Materials are cheap. Okay, what other city could I go up to Jim Pernado and Michael Green and just walk up to them and be like, hey, how are you? Can I buy you a beer? Hey, you want to get a piece of pizza? And then they teach me about art. Mm-hmm. Nowhere in the United States of America do you have access to the class and to the caliber of people that you have, that I found here. Mm-hmm. Even in Cleveland. The artists in Cleveland, great guys. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're like elitist jerks, this and that. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to become friends with them. These are guys, they got friends.
Yeah.
I
see what you mean.
Yeah. And not to say that Jim and Michael don't. Yeah. But it's like, I've never seen an area. Al Bright. This is a guy who's traveling to Rome one week and Venice and then he comes back here and he couldn't be nicer, more supportive.
So to them, they're synonymous with whoever's on the street with them at the time, regardless of their travel or their project.
I've never seen that in any other city.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, then I'll give you my normal nursery questions, kind of rapid fire. Give me just a nutshell religious view.
I'm a Catholic. I'm a member of Holy Apostles Parish. I go to St. Peter and Paul on the, I guess, near northwest side on Covington. You guys should. It's a beautiful church. Mm-hmm. We have our picnic this Sunday at Strassmeyer's Picnic Grounds on the north side off of Belmont. I'm a relatively new whole convert to Catholicism. Mm-hmm. I was raised as a Scientologist. My mother is a Scientologist. She lives in Florida. But my wife, she's a Catholic. She's been a Catholic from birth, and it has. I would say that my conversion to Catholicism. I went through the RCIA process, the Rites of Christian Initiation for Adults, a year or two ago, and it has had a substantial impact on my life. Mm-hmm. I would never suggest to say that someone else should do anything religiously. I don't know, and it doesn't concern me because I don't pray out loud. I feel like it is literally the most subjective thing that a human being has in their life. Your relationship with whatever the hell you want that relationship to be with.
Well, I like that. That sounds similar to your opinion of your art. Like, I haven't really met someone like you. Like, sometimes people that shy away from doing a lot of stuff just for other people are usually like, I'm doing my art over here, so whatever you're doing over there, who cares? But you seem kind of cool about like religion and art, where you're like, we touched on this, but like you don't seem like you're like, I'm doing my thing, you do yours. You're like, I'm doing my thing, and I hope it flows right into yours.
Absolutely.
But I'm gonna from square one be doing my own thing, and I don't expect you to understand if you do great. So
exactly, and because we can't help but be, what would the word be? We can't help but be individuals.
Yeah.
We can't help but be, like there's that backlash now. Oh, we're all taught that we're these rare flowers. We're all taught. Well, we are.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're
that's
saying.
The whole point, is that we are all completely different.
Square
we all
one
come
is,
from different places.
Yeah.
We all have different experiences. So the fact that I could say that anything is empirically or universally true is ridiculous.
I see.
Because what I try to do is I try to express myself as truthfully and honestly as I can. And I hope to allow others to express themselves as truthfully and honestly as I can. And I try to be open to them in the hopes that they'll be open to me, because that's the way that I think that's the way that we progress as people is to not shut off and say my way is right and your way is wrong, but to say this is my way, what's your way, and be open to those kinds of things, because that's how, like my whole life is influenced. My whole life is what goes out is what comes in. So I'm open to everything. You know?
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's like you come at it not because you're like, oh, I'm nothing anyways, and no one's special, so why should I? You're just as special as me and everyone is. That's
Everybody's
smart.
right, and that's the beautiful thing
Yeah.
is because if everybody's special, then nobody's special.
Right.
So yeah, everybody's special, nobody's special.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
But it's cool to come at it more optimistically. So I like
Absolutely.
that.
I would hope so. There seems to be such an anti-intellectual stream going through this country. Like, I'm making these generalizations, but it's like, oh, be like everybody else. Don't be special. Don't be smart. Don't be a unique flower. Well, screw you. Like, this is, I'm allowed to be me.
Yeah.
And I do my best to try to do that. And I
Yeah.
think that makes the world better.
And I think a lot of people between you and my age have this big disillusion with like academic life, and then it turns into that, which it never should. It should never turn into a none of us are anything thing. Like, if it's going to turn into everybody's nothing, at least let it be a positive spin like Alan Watts or something, and
Yeah.
be like, hey, it's nothing and that's relieving.
Right.
But, okay, then music. If you had one song and you had only one song to listen to the rest of your life on an island for some reason,
My
what would
wife
that
gets so angry because I get obsessed with songs, and I'll listen to them until I just burn a hole in my brain
be?
with
So
them.
you know you can stand them already.
Oh,
so you
absolutely.
have to choose one of those, huh?
Oh, gee, but that's the thing is it changes a lot. I have to confess, as a father of a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, I listen to a lot of contemporary music, and I listen to a lot of pop music because I'm not going to force my kids to, hey, you guys are going to listen to Ornette Coleman, or you guys, like, they're kids, you can choose what kind of music you like to listen to. So if they want to listen to,
Why don't you kids like Dupree's Diamond Shell Blues by Grateful Dead? I don't understand your generation. No, sorry.
It's
What a weird example.
no. It's weird because if I had the choice to curate it, if I had the choice to say, this is the one that I'm choosing to take with me, that's different because you know what song. There's one album that stayed with me my entire life that's still just as good today as the day that I first listened to it. And I don't know if I'd be able to pick a particular song off of it, but I remember this was the first audio tape that I ever bought for myself, that I went out and bought, and it was De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising, and that is still all these 40 years, 30 years later. That's still so. It would probably be
something.
It would probably be something from De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising, I would guess.
That's a good album.
Oh, I love that album.
That's a good album.
I love that album.
It's got that punchy sound throughout it.
And that was one of the first things, because I was really into hip hop at that time, and the predominant music of that moment was when NWA and Public Enemy, and it was and this was, and I wasn't that. Like, as much as I loved that hip hop, Slick Rick, like that was my
Track
I think
called
when
Quest and
yeah
stuff
when I
like-
look
yeah.
back on the significant musical moment in my life, that was it, when hip hop just broke open. 'Cause I was living in Southern California. We would go to swap meets, we would buy bootleg tapes, and so it was all very charged. It was all, and while I sympathized, I couldn't empathize because I was a 12, 13-year-old white kid living near Magic Mountain, and but I could vibe with it. And everything was so powerful. And here was a thing where it felt like I could empathize. It was you know what I mean? It was a connection to me, as opposed to that separation of artist and audience, where the artist is up on the stage way up here and the audience is down there, and you feel like there's this wide gap between you. Sometimes you're able to find artists that take that gap away, where you feel like, oh, I see, this person's like me, and that's always the art that really resonates with me. And it's very rare because, again, we're all so independent. It's different music to hit you in different ways.
But it's nice to admit that that's the stuff you actually like. I like movies about brothers because I have 2 brothers. It's just as simple as that. It's not like rocket science otherwise. It's not like, oh, it's because the aesthetic I was so inspired by it. I was like, no, I just have two brothers. They have two brothers.
I love movies
Yeah.
where I cry a lot. I remember it was so fun. We were watching the series finale of iCarly. And I was watching it with my daughters and my wife. And I actually said to myself before we watched it, I was like, you cannot cry at the end during the show. Like, you're in the living room with your wife and with your kids. Like, you can't cry. This is a series finale of a kids show on Nickelodeon. Like, just don't cry.
Yeah.
I cried, and I cry a lot, and
I do too, man.
yeah, I don't know if it's a thing that, but I'll tell you, those are the movies I'll watch. Yeah, did you ever see the movie Synecdoche, New York, with Philip Seymour Hoffman? It was directed by Charlie Kaufman, the guy who wrote Adaptation, and he directed this. He wrote and directed it. It's the greatest movie I have ever seen. It's about this playwright, and he's married to an artist, and all these things, but at the end, it's just like, and I could watch it, and I could cry. I could cry right now. I could watch it, and I could cry. I just love movies that push that button in me, where it's like, it just pushes me over the edge, where you're in it. You know what I mean? Frank. Did you see Frank?
No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else.
I
no,
bawled
didn't
my
see
eyes
that.
out at the end of that movie.
My buddy in the band loved it. Loved
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what? You're like, that was when I was like, you know what? I got to start a band.
Yeah.
I got to put a band together.
He seemed more into like we were having like rehearsals and stuff. Like somehow he was like more into, because he watched that. But he was talking more about like music.
Exactly. I was like, dude, now
funny.
you remember why you have a band.
Yeah.
It's not so you can be famous. It's not.
No.
So that's the thing. I've seen people get famous. I've seen people succeed, and in more cases than not, it has ruined their lives.
Oh yeah, I'm completely. I know we would not exist if we got famous. Like, I mean, I don't want to be poor, but I know that we would last about 1 year and then kill each other.
Yeah.
And something
That's why
bad
I'm glad
would happen.
any success that I'm achieving in painting right now is coming at the right time, because it would have literally killed me
Yeah.
if it had come at any other point in my life.
No question. I mean, those people, as much money as they make, they work really hard for it in a way that's almost impossible a lot of the time, and they just get destroyed with whatever, whether it be ego, whether it be somebody from all directions telling them what to do, or whether it be not seeing their family enough.
Exactly. I've seen people get success on an early, artistic expression, and the next expression, people are like, that's bullshit. And
Immediately,
it destroys you. Like, I've seen people just destroyed by it. Like, wait a second, you love this, and now you hate this? Like, I think any success that I get at this point, it's tempered by this idea of it's all bullshit anyway. I mean, not like that's that.
Right.
It's all, but really, it's not going to last. I'm not Picasso. I'm not Dali. I'm not going to be 80 and people are going to still be like, man, that Eric is killing it. Like, so.
Once you think about it, this is the weirdest thought in the whole world, but best case scenario, really for real, this, which is so weird to say, is like 10, 20, 30, 50 years after you die, you're famous.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You know what best case scenario is? I have a beautiful wife. I don't even understand how. I met the most perfect woman in the world for me. And we're 17 years married. And it's like when you quit smoking. You don't think about it, because I know that this is, I have the marriage thing. That we're going to be together for the rest. I have two beautiful, smart girls. I have a great family. And like that's all this is extra.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Right,
I'm
right.
already good. If I never paint another picture, if I never write another poem, I'm already good. We get one run through, and man, I've been the luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah, all that other stuff, even the way to relate with other things, is just a nice little bonus. Like, it's great luck, good life, and a lot of people I know have something akin to that. And like, you know, De La Soul, I'm campy, and I like them because they're campy.
Oh, absolutely.
And like, you know, like.
And they're fun. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And they're
you probably like movies about art because you like art. You know, it's just as simple as that. You know, like
love it.
and they're great. And like yeah, and I almost cried at like Hot Chick by Rob Schneider. You know, it's stupid. It's like,
I haven't seen it. I'll have to.
Weird. Just like there was like a speech about love that was delivered right, and I was like, man,
absolutely.
You know, it was like just got me. But okay, so
the question. Yeah, I would say that, or there are just songs throughout the course of my life that just hit me right, and man, I can't get enough of them. What would be? I think it has a lot to do with that early electronic stuff. There are some albums off of early Autechre, or there are some songs off of one song. Boy, that'd be a killer.
Aphex Twin is probably a good example because you kind of have that background or pay attention to it at the same time on the island. Like you could be like, I can ignore this.
He's got some 40, 50-minute songs that I think
that like don't change a whole lot, but maybe they do. But I always think there's like, I mean, the new stuff changes a lot, but it seems like there's a lot of repetition.
I know they made up the names for the songs. And that's the funny thing is like there are all these. That was another funny thing about early electronic music was they wouldn't tell you what the pronunciations were.
Of the songs?
Exactly, or the name like some people called Autechre, because there were no videos. They weren't being talked about on anything, so you never actually got to. So you would go somewhere and someone would mention a band name, and they'd be pronouncing it completely different than we were pronouncing it. It was just all very. So I don't know. You know what? I'll think about it. I'll get back to it.
That's cool. This way. I like the just generalization of naming Autechre, De La Soul. I mean, two good artists to take with you. And then, so what did you? That's good. Those are the meat and potatoes questions. So I know that my mom, I will make her listen to this because she's just gonna just love it. I mean, she probably knows the bookstore in Lorraine. She probably, she's an English professor. She's going to love you.
When we moved back, I drove past that because it was huge. And it was all, and I worked there, so when people would just bring boxes, like their a parent would die, and they would just bring boxes of books from these houses they were clearing out or whatever it was, and we would give them 10% of the original price on the book. I got a leather-bound copy of Walden by Henry David Thoreau, like second printing, for like 9 cents.
You're after my mom's heart, man. She's gonna listen to this and just you say box of books. That's all you need to say.
I got my library from that place.
Yeah,
because I could buy them at cost.
Right.
I developed a huge library from working there, and nobody ever came in because it was a bookstore.
Right.
So I'd be working at the post office, and I just read. For years. This is right before we moved up to San Francisco.
And that place is gone, right?
And you know what's...
It's
unfortunately.
Gone. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I'll leave... I know we've been talking forever. But when we moved to San Francisco, it was me, my friend Jason Adams, who's passed away now, and my friend Jason Whitmer, who's in Colorado, my friend Jim Hahn, who's in Cleveland still. And we've all grown up. But there was a time... We were living in Lorraine, and we all piled into an Oldsmobile Delta 88 station wagon, and we drove out to San Francisco because we were going to, and I lived in Los Angeles, but I never lived in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So San Francisco was like, I imagine that it was like, Jack Kerouac running down the street with like manuscripts and pages falling out, and like painters with paintings rolled up over their shoulders, shuffling, like all this kind of cool stuff. And we got there. And it was like bars called Jacks, where it was like, oh yeah, like we're like this is like a beat themed this, or Allen's Burgers, or it was everything had been commodified, everything had been, and we went to Berkeley, and it was hippies, and not to say that any of these things are bad,
no,
but it was like I was just really disappointed, and we looked for an apartment. It was like $2,000 for a studio apartment. And 4 of us were going to live there. And I was like, you know what? I can't. It's just not. So I ended up taking a bus back. And I took the bus from San Francisco back here to Youngstown. And I got off at the Greyhound station downtown, and I stayed at my grandmother's. This is before I moved down to Columbus, and where I met my wife. But now I realize that here in Youngstown, we're now those people.
Yeah.
Here, we're the people who are walking up and down the streets with our paintings rolled up on our shoulders. We're the people who are trading manuscripts and writing songs. Like that's how it happens.
Yeah,
we're now the people making the art.
It does feel like that right now.
And it doesn't matter if you're in San Francisco. It doesn't matter if you're in Austin. It doesn't matter if you're in Tucson. What matters is the art that you're making. That's the great thing about social media, is that we live in a place and a time where we have access to everybody all the time. So it's like this idea of like, oh well, I'm in Youngstown, so I'm somehow hindered.
Yeah.
I don't think I am. No. I think I'm doing more and better work here than I would in any other place in the country. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
That's a really good note to end on, because I usually ask people to give my mom something, say like, I want you to say, "Look, Mom, I'm on a podcast," real quick. So just say,
"Look, Mom, I'm on a podcast."
Thank you. That's what I'd make people say. But otherwise, you don't have to say anything else to her, because this whole podcast was catered to her. She's just gonna love it. She's an English professor. She grew up in Columbiana County. My dad has passed, but her and him were both. He's from Sebring, Medina. She's from Columbiana, and they moved down to the west. And they went to Kansas, then they went to Oregon. I was born there in Oregon,
nice.
And then they came, and they were hippies, and they did crazy stuff. So that, all the stuff you're saying, she's just gonna love. She's just gonna love. So any last things you'd like to say to anyone who's listening, anyone, even if it's one person in particular you think is going to listen, then we can sign off.
Jeez.
A lot of pressure.
I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to expect anybody to listen. So
right. So guys, 0 listeners. This is just me and him. So just say it to me, because I'm listening.
Yeah, exactly. More than anything else, this was a really nice conversation. I was a little nervous. I always get nervous because it's like, they say, all publicity is good publicity. I don't know if I agree with it. Like sometimes you can, it all depends on the situation. And this, more than anything else, this was just a really nice conversation.
It really,
even if we weren't doing the podcast, I would.
Yeah, that's exactly what it really is. It's an excuse to hang out with people that I probably would have at least associated and hung out a little bit, but now we can say we actually hung out. Yeah, it had a constructive purpose,
Absolutely.
But now we can say we actually, for real, had a long conversation that was cool. Yeah. Might not have ever had it if I hadn't had the stupid phone with this cheap mic on it.
No, I'll say to you, thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you, man. And thanks for, on behalf of anyone around here, for just helping build a scene in this area. It's very valuable, and it's, continually getting better. So, yeah.
Well, I can't promise I'll do anything other than I'll keep painting.
And some good painting. That's all you need, man. That's all you need. All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you.